Hello and welcome to the Reef Extra channel, and today I'm going to tell you about the Reef Factory Smart Feeder. This is an automatic feeder for pellet and flake, only it works through an app rather than manual control. Before I get into that though, disclaimer time. This was sent to me for free by Reef Factory. They don't get to see this video before you do, and they don't have any input into the video, and in fact I'm free to say whatever I want about it, both good and bad. And finally, I've only had it for a couple of weeks and I don't actually feed day to day pellet or flake, I feed frozen food, so I've only had a bit of a play with it, so this is more showing you a little bit about it and telling you what the features are like. Right, with that being said then, let's get stuck in. First thing to say then is that it is very similar to the Eheim single feeder. I've had one of these for years. They're really good, they're really reliable, they're very simple, and they just do their job. However, they are a little bit basic, and what I find is whenever I go to program it, to set it to feed, for example, when I'm on holiday, I can never remember how to do it, so I have to go and log on to the YouTube page and visit the channel to see how to set it, which is a bit of a faff. And the Reef Factory Smart Feeder gets around that by using an app, so it's much easier. There's also a couple of other similarities with the Eheim single feeder in that it has a button on the top and it's going to dispense food when I do this. A button on the top, so it will dispense food if you can just press the button manually. There we go, and goes the pellets and drops that in there. So it still has a simple button on top, which is really handy. And the greatest thing about this, I'm going to pop the food hopper off and show you the key benefit over the Eheim single feeder. The Eheim single feeder has this single opening here, and what I find, I never feed flake, I never feed pellet, but what I find is I can never get that gap closed so it's small enough so that it doesn't chuck out an absolute ton of food, too much, yet big enough so that it does let some food out. I always struggle to get it exactly right, and it's on this kind of graduated slidey thing that clicks into place, and the sweet spot is between two clicks, so I can never quite get it right, and I normally end up sellotaping it in place. The hopper on the Eheim feeder though, sorry, on the Reef Factory feeder, if you have it fully open, there's a slot there for the flake to come out, the big slot, but if you have it fully closed, let's just push that shut, you can see here the dispenser for the pellet is split into two parts, and that means that it will never chuck out far too much. And what I find is if you just click it into place like that, so it covers half of the slots, that dispenses a nice small amount, which means it's not just going to soil your tank with an absolute ton of pellets, and that alone is the best design feature on this entire device if you ask me. However, the main feature really, the headline, is that it is app controlled. So now I'm going to take you to the app and show you how it works. Now I obviously already have this set up, but there is a new way in the Reef Factory app to activate this device. You used to have to go through a slightly awkward system, but now you just click this button down here, which says add device, and then you follow the instructions, and it will add it to your existing Reef Factory products. Okay, and once you've done that, you can go into settings and you can tell it, if you go into edit container, you can tell it how much food is in there. So I'm going to say there is 100 grams of food, and the capacity is 100 grams for the sake of argument, and I'm going to say manual feeding feeds 10 grams, and if I save that, bosh. Now I think the way this works is that you just weigh how much it dispenses, and then you can tell the system that it will dispense X amount of grams every time it turns, and so it will know roughly how much it's using, and therefore it will be able to tell you roughly accurately up to 7 days before you're going to run out. And then we move on to the best thing about this, which is the schedule. So the problem I complained about with Eheim was that I could never remember how to set it up, but that's not the case with this. Really simple. You set what time you want it to feed. So for example, if I want it to feed at 11 AM, let's say when my lights have come on for half an hour, every day of the week except for Saturday and Sunday, you just do that. Number of feedings is the number of times it will turn. So if you want it to just add one lot of food, you put it 1, and it can go up to 10, which is great. Loads of flexibility. And that means then if I have it this way, so it's one feeding at 11 o'clock, Monday to Friday, in fact I'm going to put it Monday through to Sunday, you select OK, and there you go, it will feed once a day at 11 o'clock. If though I have antheas, for example, and I want to feed a few times a day, you can just keep on adding as many feeds as you like throughout the entire day, and it will feed as many times as you want. And if I wanted to do at 7 o'clock, if I wanted to do a double, you can just set it to do a twin feeding. So there's loads of flexibility within the app, and it's really easy to set up. And if you ever want to adjust it, for example, if your nutrients are too high and you want to back off feeding a little bit, or if they're too low and you want to increase feeding, you just click into the app and you can add another feeding and you're away. And there's also a feeding history that will tell you how much is dispensed. I've only played around with this, I hadn't set up before, so it doesn't tell me how many grams I've fed, but you can see every time it feeds, it will tell you and it will record the data in the app. In terms of mounting, it comes with a little bracket that will sit on your tank, whether it's a rimless tank or a tank with a Euro brace, and you can also sit it on top of an aquarium cover if you're very sensible and have a cover to stop your fish jumping out. It's also very quiet. My microphone is right here, just out of shot. I'm going to hold it right next to it. I'll take the food hopper off. I'm going to hold it right next to it so you can hear it. I almost can't hear it 3 inches away from my face. It's super quiet, so you'll never know. You'll hear a bit of a rattle as the food turns, so you'll know it's working, but otherwise you'll never hear any mechanical noise. And in terms of price, in the UK, this will cost you £90, which is actually really good value. The Eheim single feeder costs about half that, but it's quite basic. And there is an Eheim Automatica Wi-Fi feeder that costs the same as this. And I think this is quite a lot cheaper than the equivalent Neptune feeder, which retails about 130 quid in the UK. So that's what it is then. What don't I like about it? Well, I personally am not massively keen on the colour. I don't like anything white above my tank because I think it draws the eye away from the reefscape. So I would have preferred it to be black, but it's still a pretty unoffensive colour. There is a slight splash of orange, but you're really not going to notice that. And apart from that, the only thing I can find that I don't like is this small piece here. On the Eheim single feeder, it's made of injection moulded plastic. On the Reef Factory Smart Feeder, it is 3D printed, so it's likely to be less hard wearing, but that bit's never going to break, so that's not exactly the biggest criticism I can level at it. So that is the Reef Factory Smart Feeder then. If there's anything I didn't cover, or if you've got any questions, let me know in the comments section below, and if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe for next time, and until then, happy reefing.